to cast a shadow over the World Economic Forum. Oxfam set the tone earlier this week in a report timed to start off the Davos conference. It estimated that combined wealth of the world's richest 1% could overtake that of the remaining 99% by next year. Well, Professor Lorenzo Fioramonti from the University of Pretoria joins me now from our Hatfield studios. Professor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Let me start by asking you if there is indeed a growing consensus as to why our global society is so unequal. The award-winning author Thomas Piketty says our current economic model has this inherent drive towards generating and reinforcing inequalities. Is there a broad acceptance of this, you think?
There is more and more acceptance of that. I think, the fact that the World Economic Forum now in Davos has considered rising income inequality as the top trend for 2015, the fact that Piketty's research has actually gained currency around the world, selling thousands of copies and getting the Financial Times Book of the Year award, the fact that NGOs the world over have generated data that supports this, and the fact that even a bank like Credit Suisse has been publishing for the past 2 years the same type of information, saying 50% of the global wealth is owned by less than 1% of the people, or it will be so very soon. So there is growing consensus, and I think that's where we have to start.
Now, the question is, does wealth concentration thrive in times of low economic growth, such as an environment that South Africa finds itself in at the moment? In other words, you have the poor without money struggling to spend, and the rich earning from capital without spending. Is that the situation that normally happens under circumstances of low economic growth?
I would set the record straight here. The type of economic system that we've had since the 1980s has increased inequality even at times of relatively good economic growth. Now, when growth disappears or lowers, by definition, like the type of income you can generate out of investing your wealth, out of expecting a higher return on your wealth, can exceed the type of income you can generate by having a job. This is also in the data that we've been seeing in the past few years. And this is something that has to be broken, not because of moral reasons, but because it's an additional drag on economic growth, and it's destroying innovation. Good, people that want to make money these days will not try and get a job, will try and get access to wealth, and then simply using wealth to create more wealth. And this is a problem for an innovative economy.
And that brings us to inequality. I mean, any remedy to that inequality will involve healthy distribution. How do you go about doing that?
Okay, here again, I think we should be clear. If we accept, as I think we should, that inequality is probably the most significant drag to economic growth in the world nowadays, and especially in South Africa, let's not shy away from the fact that this is one of the most unequal societies in the world. So if we accept that, then the issue now becomes, how do you go about redistributing resources? And here I think we should be very creative. I think we should have an honest debate. I've been calling for an honest debate involving business leaders, government leaders, civil society leaders, and academics, intellectuals, and society at large to come up with ideas. And perhaps what we have learned from past mistakes is that top-down government-led redistribution processes do not work. Maybe because they're less efficient, also because they may fuel corruption. And those, we don't want a redistribution process that takes wealth away from those who have the money and doesn't give it back to those who need the money. So the process has to work. Even the poor and the lower ranks in society would like to see that redistribution process to work. That's why we have to be creative. That's why we have to find ways, perhaps by even instituting independent institutions. I think in other parts of the world there has been a lot of experimenting, including in the Great Depression in the 1930s, about creating institutions with a specific task. And I think we could do the same in South Africa.
Now we see the inequality debate being rolled out by unions, for example, and other stakeholders. You mentioned it in your answer just now. Is that debate transparent and honest enough, you think?
I don't think it is transparent and honest enough. I think at the moment it's very loaded with a sort of old-fashioned political ideology. Here it isn't about, like fighting a 20th century battle between socialism or capitalism. It's simply about having good economic policies in the 21st century. There is no entrepreneur that would like to see a concentration of wealth going out of hand, because he knows very well that his business can thrive only if there are consumers out there that are willing to spend their money. And if money is concentrated in a few hands, there is only a limited amount of things that those people will be able to buy. We insist so much on pushing, like having a model of economic growth that relies on small businesses. But do you think that the extreme wealthy will go to the small businesses? Of course not. We need a thriving middle class. We need households that have disposable income, that have resources to actually buy the things and the services and the goods that the small businesses produce. So we need an efficiency-driven debate on economic inequality, not a political one.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks indeed, Professor Lorenzo Fioramonti from the University of Pretoria. Thanks indeed for your time. Now, National Treasury